to Craftsman Cafe at the boardroom. Super happy to see all of your faces, especially in the middle of February. We thought this would be kind of a fun thing to do, just to bring everybody together and break up the monotony of Midwest weather. So thank you for coming. I first want to thank Amy Lindman and Joy Bach for co-hosting this. They did big thanks to both of you for just jumping in and kind of going with the flow and doing a lot of the arrangements and talking to the folks in the boardroom and just getting everything lined up. I also want to thank my buddy George Green here. He's going to video record the interview so we can put it on our, gotta put it on Facebook. So if anybody misses out, they can hear from Eliza. And I want to call out two people. Well, first, raise your hand if you grew up in Waukegan. Okay, Julie, Cynthia, I see you. Maggie. So I want to call out two people because they have a really interesting and cool connection to College of Lake County. And that's Angela LaVista. Where's Angela at? Oh, there you are, right there, right in front of me. So now correct me if I'm wrong, Angela, but her father-in-law was president of CLC, right? Yes.
It's true.
And yeah. Yes, he was responsible for a lot of stuff. So kudos to Mr. LaVista. Also Maggie Losh. Maggie Drew. Where's Maggie? Right here. So Maggie's father, Dan Drew, was the mayor of Waukegan. Maggie grew up in Waukegan, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Maggie, but your dad was part of, I'm sure a group, but probably a small group that really were the drivers behind the rehab of the Genesee. Yep. And Maggie made my evening because she said to me, Jimmy, my dad would have loved this. And he would have been here. He passed away in 2002. But God bless Dan Drew. So as some of you may know, I actually was fortunate enough to get the nod, and I joined CLC full time. I had my own business for many years, and I saw this job pop up, and I went for it and was fortunate that they chose me. So I've been with CLC full time since October. I've been an adjunct there for 8 years. So, and then, you guys, a lot of you guys know, I'll tell you about Craftsman Cafe in a minute for those who don't know, but me and a bunch of friends, Joy Bach and many others have been doing the cafe and trying to give back to the community in creative ways for over 10 years now. So I integrate my professional life with my personal life a lot. So if anybody accused me of, a conflict of interest or something, I'd say, hell yeah. So I'm the executive director of community programs, and one of the cool things is I get to work with, I want to point out, and I'm going to miss some of you guys, but Allie O'Brien over there in the corner. Allie is one of the reasons I chose to apply for the job in the first place. She's my boss. And she's very well respected at the school. Patty Clark introduced me to CLC probably 10 years ago, and she's in the business department for many years. So thank you for that, Patty. Kurt Peterson, is Kurt here anymore? He had to bolt, didn't he?
Yep.
Kurt's in charge of our foundation, just an absolute wonderful guy. Did any of you guys know Paul Hawkinson? So he's an in-law of Paul Hawkinson, and Paul is just a terrific guy, lives in Green Oaks. So now I'm off script already. So for those who might not know what Craftsman Cafe is, I'll give you a brief overview. We're a creative nonprofit that creates unique experiences for the community. While we are known for our concerts, thank you, Joy, We've also created events such as we did a book signing back in an author event back in October. We did a college conference for a lot of the high school kids here in Libertyville. We've also created events such as, we've done a chef event, and I've actually done this once before. When BECO, B-E-C-O, is a real estate firm, and they bought what is now Innovation Park, this is many moons ago, I connected with the lady who was in charge of that project and brought her to Mickey Finn's, and we filled up the back room just to hear about that project, what they're doing. So this is the second version of that. Tonight, we're not doing a fundraiser. This is just informational. And we want to share a really cool story, and part of my job as an employee, not just my role, but I want to get the word out about all the great stuff that's happening at the College of Lake County, which is one of the, I think, and I've always thought this even before they started paying me, it's one of the greatest assets that any community can have is a strong community college, and we have one of the best in the country. So Craftsman Cafe, we've passed along, you all, many of you, have passed along $565,000 to nonprofits and those in need, and most of that money has gone locally, so thank you for that. So let's get started. Before I do that, I want to introduce Eliza. I want to tell you my version, and then we'll get her version. When I interviewed at CLC, they do this thing, they got you there all day, and then they say, hey, we're going to do this thing called an open forum, and I'm like, oh shit. So that's everybody can take a bite at you. So I'm in this room, and there's all these people on Zoom and around the table, and they're like, so, do you have any questions for Jim? Crickets. I'm like, oh, this is not so bad. And then I see Eliza pop up on the Zoom, and she goes, I'll ask a question. And she says, what are you reading? And I was like, holy shit, she just threw me a bone. And I just loved her energy and kindness and generosity. We work together. She's a colleague. She's under, the CWP umbrella. And what I think, there's a lot of things that make Eliza special, but there's a couple things professionally. She can be talking about hydroponic farms and the layout of a farm, urban farm. She watches my plants in my office. She runs the whole farming kind of unit, if you will, at CLC, which we have. When we build the urban farm, we'll have 3 farms. One in Grays Lake, one in North Chicago, which is the Greenbelt Farm. And then, of course, the beautiful urban farm center that we're building shortly. But on Tuesday, she's talking about plants, science, farming, design, all kinds of stuff. And on Wednesday, she's sitting across the table from some of the most generous, high-powered is not the right word here, but significant philanthropists in the Chicago region, and making essentially pitches for 7 figures. She has range. She's really good at it. So I'll let her explain more about her experience. So Eliza, I'm going to give you the mic here. After I ask you a question, we'll share it. So the college has embarked on a project to build an urban farm center in downtown Waukegan, and my question is why?
Great question. Thank you for that lovely introduction. I recommend that everyone find a place to work where everyone appreciates your talents and tells you about it daily. I mean, honestly, CLC has been the most supportive place I've ever worked. Granted, I've only worked at 2 places, but City of Chicago was not number 1, I will tell you that. So why CLC, why an urban farm center? I actually came from 20 years at the Chicago Botanic Garden, working in the community and outreach arm of the Chicago Botanic Garden, mostly working on the west side of Chicago, building an urban farm center like this. When we had been working for a long time on building that vision, really, I don't think the shovel had even, we had been in demo space. A group of folks from Lake County led by these generous philanthropists that Jim referred to, said, we'd love to come down and see what you're doing because we need this in Lake County. We want this in Lake County, and we want this in Waukegan specifically. So they came down and were like, okay, here you go. And they were talking about, oh, then you have to do this, and then you have to do this. And they're like, who could even have the capacity to do this and raise the money and get the building and then run the building and run all the programs for it? And fast forward another couple of years, and another really generous philanthropist actually said, oh, I have an idea. I donated to the Chicago Botanic Garden. I really love CLC. I really love Waukegan. What if these two organizations work together to bring this to Waukegan? So he brought this idea to CLC. Our president, Lori Suddick, if you know her, I think there's a few badass women in the room. She's not in the room, but she is a badass. Said this really fits in our strategic plan. It's workforce development, it's feeding, it's revitalization of our downtown Waukegan campus, which we're really committed to. It checks a lot of boxes, and we have the capacity. So really, that's kind of the origin story of the Urban Farm Center. And I keep pointing over here because this is I don't know if we've been doing a lot of chatting, but this is the rendering of what the vision for the actual building will look like. Raise your hand if you've seen a farm before. If you've seen a farm before. Raise your hand if you've seen a farm like that before. Ellie has. Yeah, it's kind of a unique vision, and most of the growing will happen inside. Most of our food in Lake County, most of our food in Illinois, we have some of the richest farmland in the world. 96% of our food that we eat in Illinois comes from outside of our state, most of it outside our country. Given climate change, given the cost, given greenhouse gases it takes to produce food, we need to really think about, and the disruptions we saw in our food system with COVID, we really need to be planning ahead for a more resilient food system so that we can be growing more of our food locally, so then when crises hit like this, we don't feel it in our day-to-day because we're already prepared. So I don't think hydroponics is necessarily the cure for climate resiliency, but it's one piece to that. How do we grow food year-round inside? We've got some other hydroponic farmers in the room too, I think agree with me. So that's why. Climate resiliency, workforce development, local food systems, training and education, and just really thinking about how all of those things fit together. Economics, you can't tease these things apart. They are all connected and they all make sense to CLC, especially at our Lakeshore campus in Waukegan. I will say Waukegan 5 more times.
So let's talk about your background. Tell us what inspired you to become involved with urban farming in the first place. And you already mentioned you were with Chicago Botanic Garden, and the farm on Ogden is the name of the, and that's in Inglewood?
North Lawndale.
North Lawndale, sorry. Really, the urban farm for CLC is kind of modeled off of that, no?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So why urban farming? Well, I grew up in a small town in Wisconsin, just west of Madison. If anyone's familiar with the Driftless area, Mount Horeb, Wisconsin is where I grew up. Indeed, the troll capital of the world. We've got Tyrol Basin, Cave of the Mounds. It's a great place to grow up. Really great place to grow up. But when I was growing up there, it's also just 20 minutes away from the University of Wisconsin in Madison. And a lot of my friends went there, and I said, my grandparents lived in Indiana, where Purdue was. So we grew up going from Wisconsin through Chicago to Indiana to visit all the time. And every time we drove through Chicago, I was like, this is awesome. I love Chicago. I love everything about it. I think it's so exciting. Never in my life did I think I would live there, but I was like, I'm gonna test the waters, and I went to Lake Forest College. So kind of Chicago, but still pretty safe. By safe, I mean not all the way in. I was dipping a toe, I didn't have to commit. But once I met my husband there, and we really decided we wanted to stay in Chicago, and so we have been in the city. I live in the city, raising our kids there. I never thought I'd raise my kids in Chicago. They both go to Lane Tech High School, and I really, really, really thought that I never thought that I would be farming, because I grew up farming. Not me, but my best friend grew up on a dairy farm. My high school boyfriend grew up on a dairy farm. So if I wanted to see them, I had help with chores. And so I grew up idolizing farmers and really having a lot of respect for what they did and wanting and loving being outside, loving having my hands in the dirt and being around growing things. And when I had the chance to do that and incorporate workforce development into it and community development, it was like, how did this happen? This is really a really cool confluence. And I think it's a true testament to how agriculture and food and farms really touch everything. You think about the skills that a farmer has to have. Marketing, he has to be a mechanic, she has to be a mechanic, you have to be a manager, you have to be an accountant, you have to have all of these really, really important skills. And everything that we teach at CLC touches on the skills you need as a farmer and a food systems participant. Oh, and then, I had the privilege of being at the Chicago Botanic Garden and helping to grow that the urban agriculture program there, Windy City Harvest, for 20 years, and watching it grow from, one person, one farm. And Windy City Harvest was born here in Lake County at the Greenbelt Farm in the Greenbelt Forest Preserve, the Lake County Forest Preserve District. And that was the start. And then it grew into the city and grew to 15 farms and 5 different programs, and a produce prescription program, and a workforce development program, and a transitional jobs program for men and women who had been involved in the justice system. And so when CLC reached out and said, we'd love to do this here, the chance to see how that successful program could be replicated, and especially in a community, because that was a cultural institution. Imagine what could happen at a community college with workforce and community development at its heart and soul. Because really at the Chicago Botanic Garden, we cared a lot about plants, and people were like the sideshow. And it's harder to get people to care about, honestly, people than it is to get them to care about plants. But at CLC, I was like, oh my gosh, these people already care about people. I just have to get them to care about plants. So that was the easy job. I'm like, this is gonna be simple. And the leadership had really already bought in, and so it was really a no-brainer to say. And frankly, Kurt, was mentioned before. Kurt was really instrumental into getting me to leave my home of 20 years and come to CLC, and I have been extraordinarily happy, especially with the progress that we've made on the Urban Farm Center.
So that's great. Can you, first of all, kind of break down, you did a little bit, but be more specific, break down. So we're gonna have a kitchen, and to talk about the actual rooms in the farm, and then tell us, share with us what your favorite aspect of the farm is, what you're most excited about, and why.
Well, speaking of plants, I have a plant in the back alley, and she happens to be conveniently situated right next to the floor plan of the Urban Farm Center. So you saw kind of the rendering of the outside, but kind of seriously, Allie, could you point to some things? So you see the right, more colorful side on the right, where it's like pink and brown and orange. That's Sheridan Road right there. And to the right of Sheridan Road, what's to the right of Sheridan Road? The lake. So it's beautiful. Our campus is right on the lake shore. It's really, really great location. And on the left, just for orientation, a little bit further to the left is the Genesee Street. So the main drag of downtown Waukegan. So we're really, really conveniently located right in the heart of downtown Waukegan. So that orange spot, that's the front door right at the bottom of the space. First thing you walk in is the front door, and a front door that almost all of us feel comfortable with. Because not all of us feel comfortable just walking onto a farm and being like, what's going on here? What do you got growing here? Is this some corn? What is this? Is this a tomato? Who knows? But everybody feels comfortable walking into a store. We know what to do in a store. We know we can walk around. We know we can buy stuff. We know we can pick up stuff. We can interact with it. So the first thing you come into is the store. That makes it really accessible to everyone. And it makes local foods grown here in Lake County accessible to all of us in Lake County. Because really, if you want to buy local foods in Lake County, it's kind of hard. You have to kind of work at it. And so we're going to make it really accessible right there. Then if you keep walking a little bit past there, there's a commercial kitchen there. So let's say you are interested in rutabagas, but you've never cooked with them before. You can learn how to cook with a rutabaga, take a cooking class, or learn what the nutritional value is of a rutabaga. I picked a really bad one. Nobody really wants to know about rutabagas, but so, you can imagine a vegetable that you want. Kohlrabi, similar, so. You can imagine what it'd be. So you can go, and let's say if you're a small business, you have a small business in your home. Let's say you're a working mom, and at night you go home and you're making tamales at your house, and you go and sell those tamales. But you might want to, people really like your tamales, you want to grow your business, but you need a food handling license, you need to be in a commercial kitchen. That's really expensive to get access to one of those places. This kitchen will also be available to food entrepreneurs who want to grow their home-based business, which is very cool. And hopefully they'll be using local food to grow their local food business. So getting their what do you call it? The whole foods to grow, not the whole foods, but you know, the whole foods. So then you walk back a little further, and this is the classroom. So let's say you're a kid, or you're a teacher, and you think this is cool, you want your kids to learn about local food, you want them to learn about the local food economics. You want to bring them, and you want to take a field trip. You can go to that pink space, they'll have a multi-purpose classroom there, we can do a hands-on cooking class, we can do a planting class, anything like that. And Allie, if you would travel a little bit back down to the front, actually, there's this little white aisle to the left. Oh yeah, there you go. Little white aisle right there. We happen to be on one of the few downtown lots that actually has a slope on it in downtown Waukegan. So we're gonna have an upper area and a lower area. And to separate and to connect the two is gonna be an observation deck. So all that green you see on the left there, that's growing, inside growing. So we'll be growing basil. You see basil on your table? Make sure to take that basil home. That's for you. Take that home and keep growing it. There'll be basil, there'll be lettuce, there'll be tomatoes and cucumbers growing in that front greenhouse. And all along that corridor, you'll be able to, the field trip that you're on, or if you're just a shopper in the store, you can look in and see where your produce that you're just buying in the store is being grown right in the grow rooms right there. Year round. So any day, February, middle of February, you could come and see tomatoes being grown or lettuce being grown, basil. And then the really sexy part is in the back. Some offices, a loading dock, and then cold storage, processing, box shipping and receiving, that kind of stuff, which is really, really important. And actually, when you think about the local food system here in Lake County, that's the piece that's missing. It's not the sexy piece, but it's the important piece. How to maintain food safety, make sure that the local food is getting safely and chilled to the end user. So and you asked what my favorite part was? I think my favorite part is the retail. So it's where anybody can come to interact with the store and find a front door to all of the opportunities that CLC has to offer on Lakeshore and beyond.
Thank you. Can you tie in? Great job. That's good. Can you tie in just briefly so Eliza and I are talking a lot about, she came up with this, or somebody did, one farm, 3 locations. Because we really want to get the word out that there's a farm in Grays Lake, and I'll let you talk about what they do there, and it's part of our you say
I'll say it.
And in Greenbelt. Can you tie them together a little bit?
Sure. So I talked a little bit about the local food system. Plants are a really important part of that, but really the most important part of that is people, because without people who know how to grow food, who care about growing food, who want to have growing food as part of their lifestyle, we will not have any of this beautiful food. So how do we create a ladder or a continuum of opportunity to introduce young people to careers in the food system and jobs in the food system, and create a pathway for them to ultimately be entrepreneurs or growers or local food like sellers? Like there's a lot of different pathways, even in farm to table restaurants and healthcare. All of those pieces are really tied very closely together in the food system. So we're trying to create places and opportunities. So there's, like Jim said, he alluded to, we have our campus farm, which is the legacy farm that's been there for a really long time on our Grays Lake campus. So we have a couple of really traditional greenhouses there, some hoop houses that enable us to extend the growing season into the spring and into the fall, some in-ground crops, and we have a farm stand there, and that's really the living lab for our 4-credit horticulture students. So those of us who already know, those are the college students who already know they want it, they're into this, they're committing to it. They can get their associate's degree in horticulture. But how do we get the students there? We start at the Greenbelt Farm in the Greenbelt Forest Preserve as part of the Lake County Forest Preserve District. This is where young people from Waukegan and North Chicago get a paid summer work opportunity. Anybody have a teenager here in the house? Yeah, okay. So I've got 2 of them. One thing that motivates teenagers. Money, 100%. I mean, that might be the only thing that motivates teenagers. I don't know. So how do we? I've been doing this for a long time, trying to get teenagers to want to work at a farm. Like, oh, we talked about, and then you can do this with this, and then you get to grow, and they're like, glaze over. We had these beautiful boards with pictures and stuff. One time I forgot all the boards, and I had to like improvise. I had a piece of paper, and I like drew a dollar sign, and I held it up, and they're like, "What's up? Tell me about this farm thing you got going on." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." The teenagers want money, so how do we get them to? How do we hook them in? We pay them. So in this summer we have an opportunity for 15 young people from North Chicago and Waukegan to come work for 6 weeks for 20 hours a week at the farm, learning all the farm skills, selling the produce, learning to grow it, learning to cook with it, and then they might not know they want to be farmers at the beginning of the season, but been doing this for a long time. They didn't know that was an option. They never knew that they could do this, and they never knew they could get paid to do it. So once they get paid to do it, it's like, this isn't so bad. I kind of like this. They come back, and then they tell their friends. And then they say, oh, next I want to go. Oh, yep. Yeah.
So you're talking students outside of students.
Yeah, these are high school students. Yeah. These are high school students that we're hoping eventually will want to be CLC students. So in addition to the high school students, in Lake County we have 8,000 young people who are currently not connected to work, and they're not connected to school, and they're 16 to 24 years old. 3,000 of them live within the zip code of where our campus is in downtown Waukegan. How do we hook those young people in and connect them to a career that's meaningful and really healing? Honestly, growing plants is one of the most therapeutic things that you can do, especially if you're giving back to your community. So how do we hook those people in? So we're working this summer for our first time to get internships for out-of-school youth in the spring and the fall, paid work opportunities. And then, hey, now that you have a trusting relationship with CLC, what's next for you? You've been to campus, you feel comfortable there, you know this person, you met Allie, you saw Jim in the hall, you start to feel like that's a place you belong. And you want to stay, and you feel supported there. So if we can start to create this pipeline in the Urban Farm Center, again, this is the front door. People might not understand how they're going to fit into this down the road, but once they come in the front door, they're going to start to become really clear really quickly.
Thank you. What's the timeline and next steps for the project?
So we've been I've worked at CLC. This project, like I said, has been going for a while now, since that first visioning, then incorporating it into the college's master plan, then working with our friends at the City of Waukegan to get approval for zoning and permitting. And so we took about a year to do that, and then we're in the design. So we have architects hired, they've done these schematics that you see, they're working on that, now they're working on fleshing out that floor plan that Allie was pointing to, and coming up with cost estimates. But we currently, and of course at the same time we're doing that is we're doing the fundraising, because once the design is done, we want to be able to hit the ground running and break ground. So we're anticipating the schematic is that we're hoping to get our fundraising wrapped up early summer. This year, we currently have, this is a $15 million project. We currently have $3 million in hand, another 2.5 kind of in soft commitments. And then we have prospect lists that kind of help get us there across the finish line, but we have to do the legwork to get the funds into hand, because this is really a majority supported by the public of Lake County. So individual giving, foundation giving, government public grants, hopefully get some earmarks to be able to bring this thing across the finish line. And then, so we're hoping to break ground, if all goes to plan, hoping to break ground in early 2025, spend that next year finishing up, if we have any fundraising to do for, I don't know, has anyone been a part of a construction project? Has anyone been a part of a construction project that has been on time and on budget? What? No one? Okay, we might have to do a little more fundraising, hopefully not. But so hopefully to get it built by at the end of 2025 with the grand opening in early 2026. And at the same time, we're going to continue to be doing the programming to kind of build the trust, start that human pipeline of opportunity into the horticulture programs and stuff, so that when the building opens, people see a real reason to go there and spend time there and see an opportunity there for them.
That's awesome. And one of the things I just want to add from a student perspective is introducing them to the school through the farm. There's so much more going on at CLC than just this farm. Obviously, we're focused on this because this is a really cool project, but I'm going to do a plug for the ATC. A couple years ago, College of Lake County bought the Lowe's building that was on Grand Avenue. There's a Cooper's Hawk restaurant kind of right next door. And that Lowe's building has been transformed. You could probably call it a campus, but it's the Advanced Technology Center. And what it is industrial technology. You walk in this place, and it's spotless, number one, but there's all kinds of high-tech equipment that trains people, students of any age, frankly, that want to learn how to work in advanced technology. A lot of people don't know that the Lake County is the second largest manufacturing base outside of Cook County in Illinois. There's a lot of manufacturing here, and a lot of those companies are what's going on with demographics, right? Everybody's retiring, the baby boomers, all that kind of stuff. There's a huge need for skilled labor, and that's really throughout the country, but it's very pronounced here. And the college saw that as well. So I look at the farm as an entree into the world of CLC, and one of the things that we work hard at is helping the kids explore. And it doesn't have to just be the farm. It can be anywhere within CLC. So manufacturing is a big, big thing. I'd love to do like one of these events and do it at the ATC so you could see this place. There's robots and stuff in there. It's amazing. Some of you guys may know I volunteer with my father's business. I'm from Zion, so I haven't volunteered in a while, but for a long time I was going up every Friday night to spend time with a bunch of young kids, and I don't like this term, but I'll use it for descriptor, at-risk kids. And long story short, one of them met me at the ATC yesterday, and he said, I want to do something different, I just don't know what's out there. And so we walked him all over the place, plugged him into the instructors there, told him all about the different programs, scholarships, apprenticeships. I mean, it's amazing the opportunity that young people from any town in Lake County they can plug into CLC. So I drank the Kool-Aid with CLC a long time ago, and they gave me more recently. But Eliza, great job on that. So. One more question, and then we'll do a Q&A. If anybody's got any questions, just throw it at us, throw it at Eliza. How can people get involved?
So good news is Jim Ever Prepared made this great resource sheet. It's on your table. Every table should have one. But there's lots of ways you can engage with this project now. Thank you. You know I was going to spill that one. So one, and we already talked, Maggie, you and I talked about this. Request a personal tour. Come see what's going on at Lakeshore. The more bodies we can get into that campus, the better. We want people to spread the good news about all the exciting things happening in downtown Waukegan, and our Lakeshore campus is one of the best places to see it. Come, it's my favorite thing to do. Obviously, I love to talk.
Tell them about the investment in the building.
Oh, and we have a new, I mean, it opened last February, so it's about a year old, student services building. It's a 5-story, gorgeous, state-of-the-art building with amazing views of Lake Michigan. So make sure you come on a beautiful sunny day. It can be cold, but sunny, so you can see the view. There's nothing like it in Lake County. Really, really cool. So Jim can put you in touch with me, and we can make sure you get a tour. Our campus farm, if you want a taste of the good stuff that's to come, we're already selling it at our campus, at our farmers market, at our farm stand at the Grays Lake campus every Thursday, starting in June from 3 to 5. So come early because it sells out. You can volunteer if you want to come and get your hands dirty with me and our farmer Mike and the young people this summer. We'd love to have you out to Greenbelt to kind of see what's going on, have you volunteer there. You might even take home some beautiful produce. Really, we're here, this is not necessarily a fundraiser, this is a friend-raiser. Jim obviously has background in marketing. We are hoping that you all will serve as ambassadors for what's going on at CLC, what's going on in downtown Waukegan, and what's going on with the Urban Farm Center. So please, don't be shy, spread the word. Jim's your guy. And you know, if you really feel the need to throw some money at this project, we will not turn it away. That's it.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions, ideas? Just throw it out there. Thoughts? Lisa?
Is all the produce organic?
The question was, is all the produce organic? So we will not be certified, you know how you see the certified organic sticker? We probably will not, well, we might go through the process as a learning exercise, but it's really expensive to become certified organic, and you have to have a lot of paperwork. So none of the produce that's grown on any of the farm uses any chemical, herbicide, pesticide, or fertilizer. So everything is OMRI, which is the Organic Certification Board approved. Great question. We use a lot of compost. What kind of things do we grow? So currently at the Greenbelt farm, we grow everything that can produce a high yield for a long time. So in spring, we're growing a lot of spinach, kale, Swiss chard, peas, baby carrots, what else? Lettuce, spinach. And then when you roll into summer, then you get around to the fruiting crops like the fun cucumbers, the peppers, hot and sweet, all the herbs, squash, winter and summer. Really anything you can, the couple of things we don't grow a lot of pumpkins because they take up too much room. We could do a whole acre in pumpkins. And we don't do a lot of corn. Again, it takes up too much space. But almost anything else you can imagine. We also grow a lot of really culturally relevant plants. We harvest our tomatoes a little bit early for green tomatoes because folks really want green tomatoes. And episode. Anyone ever familiar with the weed purslane? Yeah. So purslane is this really amazing weed. You've all grown it before. Don't worry, you're great farmers. And it grows in the cracks in your sidewalks. And it also grows on farms. And it's like this really juicy, it looks like a little succulent. And it is super, super nutrient rich. And it's very, very prevalent in lots of Latino cuisine. So we grow tons of that and sell it in downtown Waukegan at the Gonzales Market. Episode is another one that's very culturally relevant. Yeah, lots of stuff. Yeah.
So once the farm is up and running, let's say in the next, 3 to 5 years, have there been discussions or talks about really engaging in the school districts, the local schools, and then trying to get kids at a very young age eating real food, studying the effects, the positive and long-term effects all over the school and watching kids thrive and getting off the crap and just like nutritious meals, watching.
You have children, I see. Yeah. Or you don't, because you imagine that children eat vegetables. I have 2 kids, I can't. One of them eats, one of them doesn't. I don't know what happened. So yeah, great. What we're hoping is that this farm can actually grow critical mass so that and we can train on folks to be growing more locally. I've never seen so much governmental public support for local foods in Illinois since I've been in this field for 20 years. Really in the last 2 years is the first time I've heard the USDA or the Illinois Department of Agriculture say the words urban agriculture as a legitimate part of our food system and food production system, and recognize how much food can be produced in these types of farms. If we can get more of these types of farms growing, we can aggregate the produce and then contribute meaningfully into institutional feeding, like school lunch programs. We have to get the food safety down, and we have to get the distribution and the quantity down. That's the hard part, because other farms and the other type of food system does that really, really well. And so we need to figure out how to do that in a meaningful way along with the education and the tasting. So we're hoping the very first thing can be getting school groups to come to Greenbelt Farm, come to the Urban Farm Center, see it, because the best way to get kids to eat vegetables is for them to pick it off the crop or pick it off the plant and try it themselves and see how delicious and different it tastes when they grow it themselves. And does that answer your question? That's a down the road goal for sure. And we're also trying to kick up this Grow Lake County Network, where it's a web resource that's been around for a while, started by Liberty Prairie, and still exists, and it's a really great local food resource. So it's live now. If you want to check out Grow Lake County, you can check that out, and it's a lot of resources for getting local food. And it's real delicious. And Liberty Prairie actually opened, I don't know if anyone's seen the on the south side they moved their farm store from the middle of the development to the south side by the train station. So it's really easy to get to now, and it's really a great resource for local food. Yeah, Lynn.
So for your grow room, how many people do you anticipate needing to manage and take care of that grow room, and how is that working within funding or integration of the class expectation or et cetera?
So the question is about labor. So really, any educational farm probably hires and uses more labor than a for-profit farmer would use, because it's an educational farm and we want to train as many people as possible. So we'll probably have more people with hands on the plants than typically you would need or want, frankly, in the grow rooms. But we anticipate having a combination of paid youth farmers, so high school students doing paid work experience, these interns and apprentices, again, the out-of-school youth doing paid work experiences, student workers who are 4-credit students at CLC in any number of fields, and then internships using our college students that are in horticulture and that are doing kind of career track learning opportunities, and then also hands-on. The space can also serve as a hands-on lab for 4-credit classes. I imagine that eventually we'll have a controlled environment agriculture elective, and eventually maybe even a controlled environment agriculture certificate. So all of those people will have hands on the plants, which is an absolute nightmare if you know anything about farming, especially controlled environment agriculture, because it's not a biological system, and it's a very controlled environment. Mother Nature is not helping you out. So you gotta be really careful. But that's really good training it's almost like working in a lab. So it's getting that food safety training is really, really important. Thanks for the question. Yeah?
It's crazy, but you ever think about livestock? Is that part of the...
The type of livestock I think about these days are bees, and I think about quail. So anyone on TikTok? I don't know. The quail eggs are really making a big run on TikTok. They're super nutrient rich in B vitamins, like way more than eggs and less calories. And so I think we could have a really nice quail flock. I don't know if you call quails a flock. There's probably some very special name for that, but yeah, that's livestock. The hard part about livestock is we are a college, and people go home at night,
Yeah.
But quails and bees are very low maintenance. Yeah. Did I see another hand kind of pop up? Yeah.
Question, are you doing any kind of vertical farming, given that you have size constraints? And then are you going to be doing any kind of education of the public on vertical farming at home?
Yes. Two amazing questions. I didn't provide a lot of detail about how we are going to be growing. So in the greenhouse, which is at the south end of the building, we'll be growing tomatoes in a greenhouse and cucumbers, and they're kind of a type of vertical because they grow so tall and you need ladders to farm them. So you can grow a lot in a little space because they grow so tall. the other type of vertical farming, and you may have seen sometimes when people think about vertical farming, they think about like high rises, but really vertical farming can be done on any scale, right? So, and it just means you're growing things on shelves at multiple layers. You're not just growing one layer. So yes, everything in that green box will be vertical farming. So we'll have separate, distinct grow rooms growing specific crops, and each one will have about 5 layers inside, depending on the crop. Because basil grows a little bit taller than lettuce, so you can have more layers there. And yes, and you can do vertical farming and hydroponics very simply at home. Does anyone have? Maybe some people already have. Yeah, really easy. I mean, I'm growing basil right now on my countertop. It could not be easier. Yeah, definitely low tech and high tech training for how to do this at home as well, and really in your backyard and greenhouse, whatever. Garages are a great place to start, because we're really hoping that people will start do entrepreneurial work and grow microgreens, grow basil. Like, they should be the farmers, right? We should be the farmers. Great question. Yes.
Can you speak to the volunteer opportunities, and it says, ask about our workshops?
Nice plant, Jim.
Thank you, Mary.
So the question was, how do you volunteer? What are the volunteer opportunities? And then ask about our workshops. So volunteer opportunities currently are, we'll accept, we have, this is mostly farming. We're hands in the dirt, growing farming at the Greenbelt Farm is really our main, and that's mainly from May through October. Mainly during the week, mainly during the workday. And then eventually we'll have all different kinds. And really with the Grow Lake County website too, if anyone is interested in keeping that resource alive and well, we'll take volunteers for that too, for sure. And then ask about our workshops. I'm hiring a program coordinator. She starts on Monday. So hopefully workshops will be coming soon. And was there another question here?
I just wanted to let you know that a group of quails called a bevy.
Thank you. A bevy is a group of quails for all of you, all those inquiring minds. Thank you. I knew it had to have a special.
Did Allie have a question?
Oh, Allie. Yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
So you mentioned produce prescription boxes.
Yeah.
Can you talk about or explain a connection to health and wellness that the Urban Farm Center has?
Sure. So one of the things that we, when I was working for Windy City Harvest, we noticed that, boy, this produce is really high quality. This produce is really affordable. This produce is right in people's neighborhoods. Why aren't we seeing people flocking to this produce to buy it? And we were noticing there was 2 things missing. One was how to prepare it, like what to do with it, and the other one was why. Why is it important? Only 1 out of 10 of us, no matter what your race, your economic status, eats enough fruits and vegetables. I think there's 60 of us in here. That means only 6 of us in this room eat enough fruits and vegetables. I don't know who that is. It's not even me. It's not me for sure. So all of us could stand, and it's the number 1 thing we can do for our health. So how do we make that accessible, and how do we spread that word to folks, especially folks who are working with limited budgets? We have to partner with healthcare, and that's what we did in North Lawndale. Is we partnered with the federally qualified healthcare center, Lawndale Christian Health Center, to refer their patients who were at risk or currently had a diet-related disease. Now, a diet-related disease could be they've had a stroke, they have high blood pressure, diabetes, and most of us Americans are at risk for diet-related disease, let's be honest. So almost everybody was eligible. So Lawndale Christian Health Center would refer their patients. Their patients could come to Farm on Ogden, pick up a free box of produce, but along with that free box of produce came coupons, because they were just they would get a box, maybe they'd get a box of kohlrabi and rutabaga. We tried not to do that, but they also would get coupons in order to shop and pick out whatever they wanted from the store at half price if they used their Link card. Sorry, these folks were also folks who had Link, right? So they could double their Link coupons, and then they could get double on top of that with the produce prescription program. So that stretched their food dollar. Plus this produce was fresh, so it lasted longer in the refrigerator or on the counter. It was fresh, so it tasted better. Because a lot of times, if you have a limited food budget, you don't want to spend your limited food budget on half-assed produce that's going to go bad really quickly, that your kids may or may not eat. You know, so we need to do better in our food system if we want our population to be healthier. And this is how we can do it, by partnering with healthcare to provide those types of prescriptions that enable that really fresh, high quality, culturally appropriate, and relevant food to be more accessible on all the different levels. Thanks, Allie.
Is that the veggie, right?
That program was called Veggie RX in the city, and we'll probably think of an even cooler name, or we'll just steal that name too. I'm sure our partners at the Botanic Garden won't mind. Yeah.
Would you be able to accommodate corporate volunteering, so opportunities where employees from the company come in a group at a day and just put in a few hours?
Yes, please. Yes. I mean, the best story I have from last summer was our first season, and this is my favorite story. So when I worked for the Botanic Garden, we had 3 farms. One in North Lawndale, one in Washington Park on the south side of the city, and one up here. One of the students that was one of the first youth farmers, so she's now 32, called me up. She and I were pregnant at the same time. She was a high school student. I was a 30-year-old woman. And she called me up and she said, "Hi, Eliza, it's Kenya. We haven't talked in a long time, but I'm an accountant at Potbelly Corporate. This farm meant so much to me. I'd love to bring my coworkers out and volunteer at the farm." Oh, it was the best. It was the best moment of the whole season. So she came out, brought her colleagues out, and they had a Potbelly Corporate work day, and I'd love to accommodate that for anybody who's interested in the room here. Yeah.
Will you be partnering at all with local restaurants or farm table type restaurants or anything for that hospitality industry?
Okay, I gotta be really careful with this answer. I love restaurants, and I love restaurants that incorporate local food. And it is really hard to work with individual restaurants as a grower. So, if anybody wants to start a local aggregation and distribution produce company that works specifically with farm-to-table restaurants, okay, then we will give you we'll sell you the produce, and then you can work with all of the restaurants and making sure, and promoting it, and I kid a little bit, but kind of not, because that's a really big missing piece of the puzzle, not just in Lake County, like in the food system. So really, if any food entrepreneurs in here, you know how to get in touch with me. But yeah, it's a great, and I think if you get, it has to be a very special restaurant. It has to be they have to be very tolerant of, quantity changes and quality changes, and yeah. But that's a great question. Yeah.
So, you talked about subscription produce, you
Yeah.
talked about selling and all
Yeah.
that. Come August, when you have a multitude of tomatoes and squash and zucchini, et cetera, what do you do with the extras?
Well, the goal is to have all of that be going to the different markets. So, and eventually we'll have the retail, so it'll be going to retail, it'll be going into institutional buying, it'll be going into produce prescription. So really, at its peak, we weren't seeing a lot of waste at the farm on Ogden, because it seems like a lot, but if you've worked the balance enough, and we really will need a wholesale partner, honestly, because wholesale is the key. That's where the extra goes, right, is to wholesale. And wholesale, you don't want that to be your primary customer, because wholesale isn't paying the most, but they'll take a lot. So we're trying to find wholesale partners. We have a couple in mind locally here, Fresh Picks and Niles, Edible Cuts up in Racine, Kenosha, and then Common Market in the city, or a couple. But we'd love to have, again, wholesale produce, another opportunity, another entrepreneurial opportunity in Lake County. But yeah, and then also the commercial kitchen eventually, if you have extras, we can process it into a value-added product. Tomato sauce, salsa, even frozen vegetables, like shredded zucchini and things like that.
Last call.
Oh, yep.
Terry?
Oh, just waiting.
Somebody over here.
Thank you so much, Eliza, and thank all of you. It just absolutely warms my heart to see so many friends sitting here, listening intently, asking great questions, and spending an evening doing this. I just can't thank you enough for showing up, and also can't thank you enough for just supporting all the stuff that we do, Craftsman Cafe, all of our events and our concerts and our book stuff, and I mean, whatever we dream up and do, you guys all show up, and it means the world to us and the world to me. So thank you for being here. So we said 8 o'clock at 7:30. Thanks for the great questions. Eliza and I work together. You got our emails there. Most of you guys know how to get a hold of me. There's a million ways to get a hold of me. The cool thing about all of this stuff, and this is this is like the phase we're in, right, Eliza? Some of the ideas that you might have brewing in your head, or collaborations that you might have brewing in your head, seriously float them, because we are very, very much in this idea phase and looking for, building out the business model, certainly of the urban farm, obviously the teaching model, all the different aspects of it that Eliza wonderfully articulated. But we're also in this community sense, being the executive director of community programs. We're all in this mode of just listening to what all of the residents of Lake County have to say. And we spend a lot of time talking to people in Waukegan, in Libertyville. Like the dual credit stuff Sarah's doing. I mean, I could go on and on and on. We are out there and we want to hear from you. So give me a shout. Angela, yes.
You just made me think of something. So my kids went to Roundout, where they use the Edible Schoolyard program, which is right here. Yeah. So have you ever thought about using your kitchen to teach, or in the farm to teach, like the teachers or the administrators of those schools, so that they could start their own gardens at their schools?
Yeah, that's a great idea. And actually, a lot of schools, especially in like North Chicago and Waukegan, have a lot of the infrastructures. There's some really amazing greenhouses in North Chicago and Waukegan. And one in particular, Lewis Middle School, is doing a phenomenal job. They have a great setup there, inside and outside. But yeah, it's a great resource, and however we can, and even if somebody else has a really great way to teach teachers and wants to use the farm as a classroom to teach teachers, that's a great way to partner as well, because that's an amazing curriculum. That's really, really cool.
The kids would harvest the
Yeah.
food, take care of it, harvest it,
Yeah.
and they would work it into their science curriculum, and they have 2 lunch ladies who made lunch with the food, and so the kids get so cool.
I mean, that's the dream. Like, that's the dream. That's how it should be at every school. And that, in California, like, that's the norm. But we're still working on that here in Illinois. But we'll get there. That's a great idea. Yeah, absolutely. And also, please, you see these little pots on your tables. Farmer Mike, who grew all these out, he's been growing them out for 2 months. He will be very, very sad if any of these babies come home to him. He wants to see them go to good homes. So please do not be shy. Make sure they go to, I'm assuming your home is a good home for plants. But he will be very sad if they come back. So please take them.
Thank you all so much. Go ahead and mingle. There's more wine, there's more food. And shout out to the boardroom for just an excellent job. Thank you so much.